25 into order and have a roll call. Well, we got, mine shows Dana Heller on Facebook. I don't know why it does that. Am I signed in? Yeah, good. 'Cause my screen doesn't show anything.
No, you're good. It's Jim next to you that's the problem.
He's always been a problem.
It's connecting them and then.
She's gone. Funeral. Right, Patty and Audrey are excused.
We don't know where Marv is.
I don't know where Marv is, but
Burkott, no. Becky Krug, no. Greg Fowler, no. Schneider, no.
There's 26.
yeah,
Turned up too much. Way too hot.
yeah. Pam Fall's not here, is she?
I don't see her.
Pam and Marv.
That's 4 of us not here. Oh, but didn't Pam say she was traveling too? She told us at the November meeting she wouldn't be here.
Oh, okay.
So you got Audrey, Pam, and Patty have all been excused. They've all told us in advance they're not gonna be here.
Do I have a clone?
What? 26 present.
Okay, so we're good? Okay, so that can't be right. Cause you got Audrey, Patty, Marv, and Pam. Should be 25. So can I say that then? Okay, we have 25 present with Supervisor Patty Anderson, Supervisor Gooseleg, Supervisor Fall, and Supervisor Thompson are absent. Public notification?
Wendy Coleman, my executive assistant, has complied with Wisconsin open meeting requirements. Meeting agendas have been posted on electronic meeting notice boards located on the first and second floor of the Government Center, on the first floor of the Justice Center. A hard copy of the meeting agenda is available in the county clerk's office, and she's verified the proper posting of the meeting. This is the Barron County Board of Supervisors scheduled for Monday the 13th. This agenda was posted on the 8th at 11:23 a.m.
Okay, Cody Gargas, who's the pastor of the Maranatha Church and chaplain for the Sheriff's Department, the State Patrol, and our local PDs, is doing us the honor of an invocation.
Thank you for allowing this. There's many counties that don't allow the invocation or even the pledge allegiance to the flag, so I want to thank you for that. If you would join me in a word of prayer. Father God, I thank you for this new year that you've given us, and I thank you for the year that you've given us in the past. My prayer is that each of us would serve this county with diligence and passion for the individual and for the areas that we represent. And Lord, I just pray as we don't know what is coming this year, you do. And I pray that as the different members here serve in different committees, they would just have a resolve to do all they can to do what's best for our county. Lord, I pray a special blessing on this year as we serve others to honor you. And this I pray in your precious name, Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Am I supposed to sign in here? Jess? Mine's, I'll hit it. Okay. All right, item number 4, special matters and announcements. We don't have any? Oh, you do? Okay.
Lance asked me to share that you should have gotten an IT training via email, and that's something that needs to be done as soon as possible. Even though you are on county board, there is basic requirements for some of the security stuff that we do. So that's my little spiel for him.
Okay. Okay, item number 5, approve the agenda. Motion by Supervisor Cook, second by Supervisor Langman. Is there any concerns with the agenda? Seeing none, let's vote.
All right, I'm Jim. Nope, you can just tell me if you're voting yes or no, and I can mark it for you. And then Craig Fowler? Okay, and Bud Hansen? Okay.
Okay, so that's 25 yes and 4 absent, so the agenda is approved. Thank you. Item number 6, approve the minutes of the November 4th, 2024 meeting. Motion by Supervisor Bob Anderson, seconded by Supervisor Wenzel. Any problems with the minutes? Seeing none, let's vote.
Dana?
Again, 25 yes and 4 absent, so the minutes are approved. Item number 7, a statement from the Barron County Corporation Council regarding the Chapter 980 supervised release.
A lot of information was sent out. A lot of information is contained in the PowerPoint that's in part of your packet that goes through that process in quite a bit of detail, explaining the statutory requirements for Chapter 980. So I don't want to go through a lot of that stuff. So my job though is today is because this topic is surrounded by a lot of emotion, feelings, concerns, questions, information, misinformation. So my job is to provide you some information, answer some questions that's stripped down of personal feelings, personal emotions, and provide you the facts. So one of the big questions is the main question is, what as a county board can you do about this? And the simple answer is nothing. I mean, the simple answer is that you are a county board, and a county is a political subdivision of the state of Wisconsin. You derive your authority from what is granted to you by state statute. If the state doesn't give you that authority, you can't go out and do it. I mean, it's not, you get to act within the bounds that you are granted. So on 980, the statute grants you no authority as a county board to address that issue. Now, the question might come, and it's not the issue of what you can do today, but someone might say, well, why can't you as a county board draft a resolution supporting legislative change? And that's certainly something you can address, something you can consider. But the question I would ask, or one of the main questions if you're going to be doing something like that is, change it to what? What do you want them to change it to? when this law was created or modified, and there's been laws for years in the state of Wisconsin and other states that deal with this. In fact, back in early on, they were called sexual predator laws. Well, those were abolished and changed, and the Chapter 980 came into effect. And that addressed it, and it addressed some of the constitutional issues that the Supreme Court had. But a few years back, in probably 2017, 2018, the legislature changed that law again, and they changed it to its current form. And the reason they did that is because counties didn't want to be a dumping ground for the state picking out where these folks would live. And so instead of having them placing folks in counties from wherever in the state, whether it be Madison, Milwaukee, anywhere else, you have to take back your own folks. So you get your homegrown folks back. So you're not getting them from anywhere else. So now when you have to look at what is 980? Well, there are a number of folks that are on the sex offender registry. There's probably 158 placed in Barron County. If you go on the website, you can look at the pin drops where they're located. And they may have various levels of supervision required. They may have none other than the fact that they're registered, or they may have a monitor on. That's another issue. The 980 are folks that are considered, when they came out of prison, they were considered sexually violent, that they had a mental illness that prevented them from not engaging in this activity. So I'll get into that in a minute. I don't want to go too far down that road, but another question might be, so I said change to what? What's going to be different? And the reason that on the 980 law, that the individuals had been charged with a crime, they'd been convicted of the crime, they had been sentenced to prison. They served their prison sentence, and before they're released from prison, there's it goes through a incredibly involved process, but there can be a petition filed to have them committed to a state institution for treatment. It's not considered additional punishment, it's considered treatment for their condition. Now, in order for that law to be held constitutional, they have to have the opportunity to petition for release. You can't just lock them up, throw away the key. So, and I understand that that's what some people feel should happen. And, I'm just telling you the way the state looks at it and the Supreme Court looks at it. So, once every year under this civil commitment, they are evaluated. They're obviously under constant evaluation, but they have a specific evaluation once a year. And once a year they have they can do it more often than that, but certainly can ask for release, be considered for release. And they have a right to an attorney. They can petition the court for a release. And that issue is decided by the court based upon the evidence and the expert doctor, psychiatrists, their opinions. And they can ask for straight release into the community, or they can ask for supervised release. The supervised release is what we're dealing with here. That's a very specific type of release under that program. There has to be a residence identified. They are in that residence for the first year. They can't leave the residence without a chaperone. Whether they go shopping, whether they go to work, whether they go outside to have a cigarette. They can't leave the facility. There's a 24/7 monitor on them. If they go outside the building, that sets off an alarm, and the sheriff has an alert system set up for that. Getting back to, they can ask to be released. Now, what's happened is the reason that the Supreme Court has not found this particular law unconstitutional is because there are guarantees that gives them the opportunity to ask for this to petition for this release, to petition for a lesser level of restrictiveness than that. So, I mean, if we change the law to say that once they get out of prison and serve their prison sentence, that we're going to commit them and they never have a chance to get out again, then it's going to be viewed as punishment. And the Supreme Court's going to say, unless you give them an opportunity to prove that they are no longer a proper subject for that level of commitment, it's going to be found unconstitutional. So that's kind of where we're at on the 980, why we have that. One of the questions, and if you saw the frequently asked questions, is why don't we just pay the fine? Because you could be fined if the county doesn't locate a place for them. Well, that doesn't solve the problem. I mean, we pay the fine, they're still going to be released. They might be released to a residence. Maybe the state would consider a straight release and not have them under supervision at all. I don't know. That's speculating. But the fine is one aspect of it. They still have to deal with the person's petition to be released. And the other thing is that not only is it the 980 statute that requires us to do this, it's the court order. We were court ordered to do this, to locate this place. Or you may remember, if we didn't find a place, then we were ordered to use county property and build something for them. So if we told the court, no, we're not going to do that, well, then not only are we looking at possible fine, we're also looking at possible contempt. I don't know which one of you want to go to jail for contempt of court, but I certainly don't. In any case, that's what we were up against. That's what we were dealing with. So now getting back to the folks that are placed, they have, there's an individual assigned to them. That individual does random checks, scheduled checks, is the person that takes them on their, whenever they're out of the structure. There are 75 specific rules that these folks have to follow, and there is a short zero tolerance on violation of those rules. And so if they don't, if they break any one of them, they are pulled back in, whether it be for long-term or short-term or however it is, but the Sheriff's Department does not make those decisions. The Sheriff's Department is not they're not monitoring these folks. The Sheriff's Department gets called if they are needed, but they don't make any decisions on whether these folks violated. So that kind of rolls into the question about, is it a violation for someone who's a employee of the Sheriff's Department to be the landlord? No, there's no ethical violation. There's no conflict of interest there. They are doing something that's completely illegal, that is allowed. They don't make any decisions about who's placed there. They don't make decisions about whether the people are considered in violation. They are simply providing a residence, as any one of you can do as well. I've heard that the amount of the rental is high, extremely high. It is. It is all over, wherever folks are placed all over the state. That's an issue that's negotiated between the Department of Health Services from the state of Wisconsin and the vendors. And there are folks that are vendors. This is what they do. They find residences and they rent it out to the state for this purpose. And believe me, it's not easy to find any location. I think that they looked at somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000 specific locations to find something that met the criteria. So, this is a long process. The county has, a very small piece of this. And other than asking the legislature to change the law, we don't have any control over it. So I know that's blunt, but that's the way it is, and I'll certainly try to answer any questions you might have.
Supervisor Hanson?
The third guy, that was listed in the release along with the other two. The third one is not a 980 individual, and so that individual was released. I don't know whether, I know that it said that he was homeless, but I think that maybe they found he went back to Minnesota. There's the quick answer.
Supervisor Mullen.
What happens in a case where someone from the Twin Cities would try to make contact with the youth in Rice Lake and they're apprehended in Rice Lake? Who is on the hook for rehabilitating them in this case?
So I believe that under 980 is a little bit different from those, the individuals you're talking about. And I think that what happens is that they're sentenced and then they are released. And the sheriff can probably answer this, but I think they, at least for the immediate term, they are released to Barron County because that's where the charge came out of. I'm seeing head nods from the sheriff's department. So it depends on what the terms of their release are, how much level of supervision they have, and how much level of treatment they have. The folks that are under the 980, they've been in Sandridge, which is the institution that has, they're getting treatment, therapy, and that treatment and therapy continues while they're on supervised release, just not to the same intensive level.
Yeah, and I can just add to that. That is been a common theme because we've gotten over 15 of those. What happens is then these municipalities pass ordinances that they don't want these people in their jurisdiction, any sex offenders in their jurisdiction, because of the proximity of parks, schools. The county doesn't have that level of ability because our parks are far apart. So most of those have to live in our rural areas because of our municipalities passing these ordinances. You are correct.
Supervisor Vaughn.
This is a little bit more specific to the alert system, so maybe that's better for Sheriff Fitzgerald. Thank you. I was talking with one of the neighbors, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounded like the alert system only notified them if they were at home. Is that correct?
No, that's our alert system that they've signed up for.
Okay.
And we can alert them to anything we want. So at any time that we want.
So they can set it up with you, whether they're home, whether they're at the grocery store, wherever, they can be alerted no matter
Correct.
what.
So we set it up for the one family and we tested it for the one family. So if she happens to be grocery shopping in Eau Claire, she will still get the alert that something happened in around the house or whatever it is.
Okay,
So
so there's
it's
no monitoring on where the family is.
correct.
It just send a message to them.
Correct. It
Perfect.
goes to the phone, not to the location.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Supervisor Conan.
My first question I'm going to save. You mentioned the municipalities can put an ordinance in. Does that only apply to cities and towns? It doesn't apply to townships? They can't?
I don't believe, because and John will have to add, because there's some legal things. It's so many feet from a park, a school, and because in municipalities, there's daycares in the middle of town, parks in the middle of town, trails in the middle of town, it fits more.
Okay.
So they can't just blanket it, but most of the time in most of these villages and cities, it fits because of it's so close, the school is within a half mile of everything.
Right.
So, yes.
Okay. And then secondly, is it possible to be more proactive in finding housing for these kind of people, rather than waiting until the last minute? I mean, are there counties that have used their own property and had specific housing waiting for these type of things?
For the 980 process, the last time we dealt with this issue was probably 25 years ago. So it's not an issue that comes up very often. Hopefully, doesn't come up ever again. But the model that's been in place in the state of Wisconsin is that there are, as I indicated before, there's vendors that have residents that meet the criteria. But you can't just have something in the back burner because the situation is fluid. It changes, and so if someone, you have to have 1,500 feet between another residence with, to meet all the criteria. And so if something moved into the area and you had a house that was set up for that, then that house is no longer available for that. So the model had been is that the vendors would enter into the contract with the state of Wisconsin to provide the residents that met the criteria. And it's extremely rare that a county is ordered to do that. So there was one other case where the court ordered the county to buy or build, and that particular county had property near its jail, its government center. So they were able to do that. In our situation, the court had ordered us to gave us time to find a place, but if we hadn't found a place by June 25th, then another order was going to issue that we buy or build. And so we were on a dual track looking for both property that we could build on. We looked at every single parcel of property that Barron County owns, and we were at the same time they were looking for residents. And so it was kind of a dual track. But yeah, you normally don't. Normally don't do it until you're ordered to. You got 120 days to find the place once you've been ordered to. Obviously, we blew past that 120 days because we've been looking for 4 years. And it was coming down to, do something or you're going to be fined, or do something or we're going to consider just releasing these guys because they've been cleared 4 years ago to be released to the supervised release plan. Now, whether they would just straight release them, I don't know. That's a whole trial that would have to go on, but that's certainly something that they could ask for. And with regard to the issue of a local ordinance, the local ordinance that the sheriff was talking about, that relates to sex offenders. With regard to 980 sex offenders, local governments are preempted from passing that ordinance. Counties, cities, towns, villages cannot pass an ordinance that restricts the placement of 980 or restricts an individual from renting for 980 purposes. And so that's a specific statutory requirement that prevents municipalities from doing that.
Supervisor McCready, did you withdraw your answer or question? Okay. Supervisor Moen.
I'm sorry? That's the Department of Health Services. They, State Department of Health Services, they're the ones responsible for it. They coordinate with the Department of Corrections, and then they typically contract that out to a vendor that specializes in providing those checks. And who pays for it? Well, we all do because the state of Wisconsin pays for it. So, and I'm sure it's a big bill.
Supervisor McCready.
Do you know if there's any stipulation in this for homeschool families? As this, it does say that they cannot be adjacent to churches, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But in the area that these two individuals are being released, there are two homeschool families that are actually quite large and several children, where it appears that it is about 1,320 feet from their front door.
That specific issue was looked at, and the determination was that it did not meet the criteria for two reasons. One is the 1,300 feet was an adjacent parcel. The actual homeschool activity was taking place on the next parcel over, so that would have been more than double of the square footage. So even though the family owns both parcels, it's considered that you look at the parcel, and even from the edge of that parcel, it was 2,600 feet. Additionally, when you look at the definition, and it can go through a extremely deep analysis of this, but when you look at the definition of a school, a private school, or a charter school, when you go all the way down through the analysis, the home school, which is a home-based educational program, does not qualify as a school under the statutory definition. So for both of those reasons, the homeschooling did not meet the criteria or didn't fit into that criteria for being excluded.
Supervisor Gores.
Hold on. Who sets the rates there for the, because I mean, I know it's going to be a kind of a high rent, but what do you call them, but $3,500 a month sounds pretty high.
It does sound extremely high. I know that from statewide, that rate is negotiated by the Department of Health Services. It's high for one individual. I imagine this one's higher because they have two folks housed there. But yeah, that's handled by the state in contracting with the landowner.
Supervisor McGrady. Okay. All right. Any other questions? Seeing none, again, this 980 thing, it just showcases that our Barron County Sheriff's Department and Corp Council are some of the best in the state. They've handled this professionally the whole way. Today is another indication of that. So thank you both for handling like this matter like you did. Item number 8, public comment. Walter Herman. Is that mic on in the middle there? Walter, please state your name and address, please.
Walter Herman, 1708, 12 and 3/4 Street, Barron, Wisconsin. This is on the same comment here, the 980 sexual offenders, rapists, Frank Hauser and T. Cox. I got to say, I'm sorry to say, Officer Fitzgerald, I took offense to you chuckling when he said we could have contempt. I'd rather have contempt than coming home. We live next door. I'm finding my wife raped or killed by these people. I take offense to you laughing at that. This has been a very, very kept secret to the public. You guys maybe have known it for 4 years, but nobody's ever addressed anything to the neighbors around here. And the secret situation, 10 days, that's what the neighbors found out about this. No minutes, the whole situation of what behind the closed doors, everything is cut and dried, no public input, everything is kept secret to the public. Where is the lease for this? I'd like to see, this should public knowledge. We should be able to have a copy of the lease to this residential lease. I want one. Everybody here has a right to that because we're paying the taxes. We're paying the $3,500, which I don't even question that for $3,500. I want to see it because I heard last summer, or somewhere along the line, let's put it that way, $4,000. So I don't know what's the truth, but I want to see it, okay? Please, thank you. The law must be changed on how and where these people are put. You know, like you say, you had time, and you checked all your properties, but why don't you look for a property for sale that would fit? You just blew $4.5 million here 2 years ago, folks. Why can't we find a little bit to protect our own people, or maybe right there by the sheriff's department, at the jail there? Put up a facility right there where they can actually stay there close by where you can keep an eye on them. This state gentleman was here talking that night at the meeting, which was a very cut and dried thing also, but he notified us that $150,000 for each one of these people. $300,000 per year to take care of these two rapists, hand and foot. I watch. They're like royally privileged sex rapists. That's what they are. It's absolutely disgusting. Meanwhile, in the neighborhood, women and children must stand guard, and the men stand guard watching over everybody. And I got to be honest, my wife is totally paranoid. And you guys, he stands there telling we're going to give him therapy, this and that. And I said, what about the neighbors that need therapy over this? No, we have no funding for that. You just live on. BS.
Thank you, Walter. Time's up.
And then he brags about when first time these people going into the supermarket, they're so amazed. Well, big whoopee deal.
Walter,
Please.
Walter, thank you. We have your point.
And I would like Jeff French, Mr. Mintz, please get me a copy of that list. That's my final thing. Please, or somebody, please work toward that.
Okay,
We got
thank
a
you.
right to know. And thank you for I've noticed most of the women here are the ones that are asking questions. Thank you for that. Where are the men? Don't you even care? Thank you.
Recognize the guy back. Sir, you're supposed to sign up ahead of time.
I was going to sign up ahead of time, but thought I was going to be on the agenda that was just done. I would have signed up for it. I'm sorry. but
Okay, state your name and
My
address,
name
please.
is Dennis Rochelle. I live at 1228 18th Street, Barron, Wisconsin. And I'd like to know, 6 months ago, you had a closed hearing on this, or a closed meeting on this, I take it? That's what I heard, understood? Well, maybe not. But anyway, how many of you guys were, just show of hands, were appointed to this committee that was made up? None of you. No one had any input. Absolutely nothing. It's shameful. You're the representatives of us. The DOC, DHS has our bureaucrats. Didn't we learn a lesson come November 5th? That bureaucrats don't know exactly what is right for us? Like I said, it's great. You got 980 people out here. Yeah, you got a bunch of people that are sex offenders out here. That's mute. These are 980. They're special. Yes, there's 4.5 million reasons we could have put a facility up in the detention center. Basically, what you put out there in the county now is a detention center, which don't meet the zoning requirements. You got a non-conforming entity out there now. Surprise. So you can start building projects without permission to build on property like we did the highway building, but yet we just go out there and put a non-conforming entity out there? Mr. Attorney, I'd like to know a couple things too. All good and well. I want the minutes to those so-called Barron County meetings you had. It's public record. I'm demanding them either at the end of the week or the end of next week. If not, we're going to have a little hearing on open meetings. Those are open meetings. That's all I got to say. And there's people out here torqued off. Not even get our chairman to go on this committee? How ridiculous is that? Jeez, wake up. Simple things like that.
Thank you, sir.
I think we need a vote out here, and maybe that's why I'm going to run for the 10th district this next time, because there's going to be a change around here, and it might be at the chairmanship level too. We need to stop this old business of good old boys. The people count, not the bureaucrats. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Item number 9, recognition of the National Law Enforcement Day. Pastor Cody Cargus.
Good morning again. As you know, my name is Cody Cargus. I'm here on behalf of the Law Enforcement Foundation of Barron County. I'm one of the members there. I was the former president for many years. I also serve as the volunteer chaplain for all of the agencies within Barron County, all the municipalities, the Sheriff's Department, and also 2 statewide agencies, State Patrol and our game wardens. I say this every year, so if you could hold your applause until I'm done, because we do have a few law enforcement here. I've asked even someone from Barron County, Will Dexter's here. January 9th, every year, is the National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day. And whether you know this or not, we have all of our schools write letters, do different things. In fact, this year, many of our schools made videos where students said certain things to law enforcement. Some of the departments had posted on Facebook. I'm not sure if all of them have, but I know that most departments that got these videos sent it to our officers. I had the privilege that day of going to all the schools and all the departments, delivering these letters to all the officers. I would encourage you, even though we're past January 9th, to get to know your officers in the areas that you represent. Hopefully you know them by name. I know each of the officers and deputies by name. The only person I haven't yet met is the new guy that's in Cumberland. Even though I've got his name down, I haven't met him yet. I have that privilege as the chaplain. We live in a great county. And one of the great things about our county is our law enforcement. They serve us day and night, the men and women. One of the privileges I have as a chaplain is I get to meet with them. I'm covered by Wisconsin Statute 905.06 that says they can share stuff to me and I can never be subpoenaed. They care so much for us. And I would encourage you this month, maybe get to know them, maybe do a ride along. That'd be kind of cool. But even more than that, write them a letter. Thank them for the sacrifice they have given. Christmas Day, I was around seeing the ones who've worked. They weren't with their families, they were serving us. They give up their children's sports events, holidays, birthdays, and we are so, so grateful for the men and women that are dedicated to serving our county. And I get to go to Madison once in a while. I was just there this weekend doing some chaplain stuff. And I tell you what, we do have the finest in this state. They serve us so greatly. So let's take a moment and thank them, those who are here. If you guys wouldn't mind standing up, we want to thank them for all that they do in serving our county.
Thank you, Pastor. And thank you, the law enforcement, as I indicated before. We're in Barron County, including the local PDs, we have the finest in the state. So just keep up the great work. Item number 10 and 11 both are resolutions that will require a 2/3 vote, which is 20 of the supervisors. First one will be item number 10, the resolution authorizing expenditures for the Department of Health and Human Software purchase. I know that exec looked at it fairly heavily, and Stacy Frolick and Heidi Svinsky were here along with Lance. They explained things to us, but does anybody have any? Well, first of all, we have a motion by Supervisor Moen and second by Supervisor McCready to pass that resolution. Does anybody have any questions for Lance regarding that software? It's coming out of ARPA money. We've been researching for quite some time, and I think Lance has done an excellent job with that. Okay. Seeing no questions, let's vote. Okay, passed by a 2/3 majority of members, 24 yes. How did we get 5 absent? Who left? Oh, Bun's got an issue. So it's 25 yes, right, Bun? Yours, and then 4 absent. Thank you. So that resolution passed. Item number 11, resolution authorizing the use of dam fund for the replacement of gearboxes for gate number 3 at the Rice Lake Dam. Motion by Supervisor Cook, seconded by Supervisor Efforts. Do we have any questions on that? Tyler's been researching this for quite some time, and they've done a lot of good work and really got the price down. So, seeing no questions, let's vote. $25 yes and 4 absent. Thanks. That resolution passed. Item number 12. This will be a simple majority for the rest of them. A resolution approving the 2024-25 annual work plan for the county forest. Motion by Supervisor Moen, seconded by Supervisor Bob Anderson. Any questions on the forest plan? Seeing none, let's vote. Again, 25 yes, 4 absent, so that resolution carried. Item number 13, resolution of formal endorsement for Brightspeed doing business as Connect Holding LLC to assist in the attaining of the Wisconsin Public Service Commission Broadband Equity Access and Development, their BEAD program. As you know, we endorsed Mosaic, and Brightspeed would like the same recognition. Motion by Supervisor Turcott, seconded by Supervisor Wenzel. Any questions on that endorsement? Supervisor Vaughn.
Yeah, just to clarify, I still hold the position that government shouldn't be endorsing private business, so I'll be voting no, but.
Okay. I get it, you know, it took a long time for us to come to this point, but we're just to the point where broadband is like, almost like electricity, and you need it, and we've got, this might be the last straw for getting the people that need broadband access to get it, so. Any further questions? Not all, let's vote. Okay, 22 yes and 3 no. And the no's are Supervisor Vaughn, I assume.
And Supervisor Kathy Krug and Amanda Conan.
Okay, thank you. So that resolution carries. Item number 14, approve the state plan of organization, the SPO, between the state of Wisconsin and Barron County Sheriff's Department for Department of Defense, Department of DOD, Law Enforcement Support Office, LECO, Excess Property Program. Motion by Supervisor Cook, seconded by Supervisor Gores. I believe we used to be in this plan, and for some, I don't remember why we got out. I wasn't here, I don't think, but the law enforcement has looked at this, and they've indicated that this is a good program that we can maybe utilize some stuff at a pretty good price. Anybody have any questions on that? Seeing none, let's vote. Passed, 25 yes and 4 absent. Thank you. Item number 15, progress and update on the Barron County Highway Facilities Project. Want me to take that, Jody? Okay. Jody's and the Highway Department have done a great job keeping on top of this. We're down to, what, we have one contractor left to close out, and Lance is still working on getting some stuff finalized in IT. We talked about trying to close it out, but it's a lot cleaner for the auditors and our finance department if we just leave it open and let it happen as it does. And we still have a balance remaining of $188,000, which should be sufficient for any other items that should surface. Have any questions on that?
I have a question.
Supervisor Cook.
Did we actually get a bid and okay the bid to hook up our monitoring system?
Jody and I know Steve Olson's working on it. I have not heard we did.
I mean, we've been working on that thing for like a year.
I know.
The last information I have, Supervisor Cook, is that Steve Olson was looking at hooking it through the fire alarm system at no cost or very little minimal cost, and that's why it's been dropped. The Highway Committee met on Thursday last week, and they directed Mike to get this last $4,990 cleared up and to get this closed as soon as possible. I haven't heard any more about connection. I thought we were going to go through the fire alarm, and I left it at that. I can ask Steve, but I'll have something.
Because originally, we were looking at 200,000.
Right. So
Okay.
sometimes it pays to wait.
We're paying to wait because some of these are going open source. Like Bartengale is an open source system, so it's written out in the cloud and you can just access it.
And as long as we're on this, I know last year this time I asked what the utility costs were in that building, and because we hadn't been in it a year or hadn't had a function, at some point in time, are we able to see the utility costs compared to the old utility cost?
I don't have that, but we can put something together.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Those questions should be addressed when we close out the capital project fund. That should be either closed or whatever, so they'll be answered eventually.
Okay. Item number 16, the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA expenditures. There was a list included in your packet. See, we've got a balance of 1.4 million. I think the software will take, what, about $1 million of that? So we'll have some left yet, and I don't know what we're gonna do, but we'll do something good. So, yeah, okay. Any questions on that? Oh, okay. Item number 17, report from our county administrator.
Any questions on the two updates? I do want us, the county board, to start championing things that we do right. And this highways, double T transitional housing project's been a long road, but it's been very successful working with Salvation Army. They're already getting people out of Benjamin House over there, teaching them how to pay bills and do other things, and we've already had success with one person. So giving this to Ken Tregalis, but it's time to champion things when they go right. That's my comment on that. 18, my appointments, I'd ask that you do appoint all of those as printed and presented.
Can we do it as one motion unless somebody wants to, or do we have to do them separate? Okay, we're going to try to do them all as one motion, all the appointments, unless somebody wants to separate one. Not seeing that, there was motion by Supervisor Effort, second by Supervisor Heller, that we go with the appointments. Commission on Aging, appoint Carol Knoll. Health and Human Services Board, reappoint Patty Anderson, Nancy Keeler, Tony Ann Knutson, and Dr. Spencer Sampson. Or Richard Sampson, okay. Any questions? Not, let's vote. Passed by 25 yes and 4 absent. Thank you. Claims, petitions, and correspondence. That's good. We don't have any. Okay. Suggestions for future agenda items. Jeff had, 3 of them in his packet. Approval of the bids secure Sallyport expansion. Approval of borrowings for the secure Sallyport expansion and new roofs at the UW-ECBC and Student Center and Gymnasium. I guess that's 2 items. Supervisor Turcott.
Just a quick question on, we passed the bike and trail through the county, and I'm getting questions from people. Are the county gonna post signs on the roads? Are we not? Is it done? I just don't know what to tell people around.
That was not, my understanding is not part of the plan to post signs. It's just the roads. That'd be something that would have to be budgeted through the highway department in the similar way that we did ATVs or UTVs. It's something we could do. I'll make a note and I'll ask Mike about that, and we can put it on the agenda for the next highway committee.
Supervisor Cook.
You brought this up, I think a month ago, an update on the waste energy plant and where we're at and everything in terms of progress of the project itself and budget and those types of things.
Right now, as we indicated at the executive meeting, where the acid gas removal system is about 95% complete. Where we've still got some retainage, but they quit working on it mainly because I think of the cold weather. They couldn't close that. They didn't want to close the plant down when it's cold like this and work on it. So Brent and his team have got a plan to finish this in the spring of 2025. So, any further questions? Okay. I guess seeing nothing else on the agenda at 9:54, we'll adjourn